Imagine a world where the giants stare at each other across the horizon. The United States on one side, and China on the other. For decades, we've been used to seeing America as the world's sole superpower. Their technology is cutting edge, their military unmatched, and their economy enormous. But now, there's a country that has slowly but surely risen, standing toe-to-toe with the US. China. The big question is, how did a country once seen as poor and backward transform into a global force that makes America nervous? Let's dive into the story. If we rewind to the 1970s, China wasn't the country we know today. Back then, it was still poor, mostly rural, and its economy was closed off from the world. The turning point came in 1978, when Deng Xiaoping took charge. Deng had a clear vision. To open China up, he launched what's famously called reform and opening up. From there, China started welcoming foreign investment, creating special economic zones like Shenzhen, and gradually turning itself into a global manufacturing hub. Deng's famous saying was, "It doesn't matter whether a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice." In simple terms, ideology. Doesn't matter. What matters is what works and what improves people's lives. This was the start of China's transformation into the world's factory. Think about it. The phone in your hand, your laptop, even your kids' toys chances. Are they all say made in China? Why did this happen? Cheap labor. Early on, Chinese workers were paid far less than those in America or Europe. Huge population. With over 1 billion people, China had an endless labor supply. Massive infrastructure. The government poured resources into roads, ports, railways, and later, high-speed trains, making it easy for foreign companies to set up shop. The result? For about 30 years straight, China's economy grew around 9 to 10% annually. That's an insane number, and very few countries have ever achieved growth like that for so long. At first, China was mocked as a copycat, producing cheap knockoffs of Western products. But over time, things started to change. Today, Chinese companies are pushing boundaries. Huawei in telecoms, pioneering 5G networks, BYD and CATL, leading the charge in electric cars and batteries, Alibaba and Tencent, building digital payment systems far more advanced than what the US had at the time. China is no longer just making cheap stuff, it's creating the technology of the future in fields like AI, green energy, and even semiconductors. It has become a serious challenger to the US. Let's talk numbers. The United States still has the world's biggest economy, with a GDP of around $25 trillion. But China isn't far behind, with a GDP of about $18 trillion. And if you measure by purchasing power, parity PPP, China is already bigger than America. Even more impressive, China is now the top trading partner for over 120 countries. That means if countries once looked mainly to Washington, now they also look to Beijing. Of course, to be a global power, you can't rely on economics alone, you need muscle. America still leads in global military power, but China is catching up fast. It now has the largest navy in the world in terms of number of ships. It's developing hypersonic missiles. Some say they're ahead of America's. And yes, China has nuclear weapons, though fewer than the US or Russia. Most importantly, China is focusing its strength in the Indo-Pacific region, especially the South China Sea, critical trade route for the whole world. China isn't just about economics and military, it's also playing the political game smartly. Instead of direct confrontation, it often uses economic diplomacy. The best example is the Belt and Road Initiative BRI, also known as the New Silk Road. Through this project, China builds roads, ports, and infrastructure across Asia, Africa, and even Europe. This isn't just business seats influence. Countries that benefit from Chinese money and projects often become politically closer to Beijing. The US and China project power in very different ways. America tends to rely on military alliances like NATO and pushes values like democracy, freedom, and human rights. China focuses on stability, economic growth, and what it calls its own path of development. For many developing countries, China's offer is more attractive. Loans for infrastructure, affordable technology, and access to a massive market. But let's be clear, China's rise isn't without problems. Demographic crises. The population is aging fast, and thanks to the old one-child policy, there are fewer young workers to replace them. US pressure, trade wars, sanctions, and restrictions on advanced technology like semiconductors are designed to slow China down. Internal issues, income inequality, rural-urban gaps, and political controversies in regions like Xinjiang, Tibet, and Hong Kong. So no, the road to being a superpower is not smooth. So, is China really equal to the United States? It depends on how you look at it, economically. Yes, China is already a giant, and in some measures, bigger than the US. Militarily, America still leads globally, but China dominates in its own backyard. Politically, America has old allies like Europe, Japan, and Australia. China, meanwhile, builds influence through trade in the Belt and Road. The truth is, we now live in a multipolar world. America is no longer the only power in the room. China is standing right there beside it. In the past, the Cold War was about America versus the Soviet Union. Today, it's a new rivalry, America versus China. But this time, the battlefield isn't just about military strength. It's about economics, technology, and global influence. The big question is, will this competition end peacefully, or will it lead to open conflict? One thing is certain. China is no longer the sleeping dragon. It once was. The dragon has awakened. It's ready to challenge the American eagle.